I want to live, I want to give. What's up, party people, and welcome back to another episode of NYC Foodways, your weekly food and culture discussion from the cultural capital of the world. My name is John, and this week's episode is dedicated to Senator Paul Wellstone, one of the few establishment politicians I have any respect for, mainly because he was likely murdered by the U.S. government for opposing both rapes of Iraq. Since time immemorial, our species has attempted to grapple with the ungrappleable. Why are we here? What is our purpose? Where do we go when we're gone? And what does it all mean? These existential questions form the basis of and driving force behind all major religions and secular schools of thought. The problem with these questions is that they at root deal with the infinite, while you and I experience existence by the moment. So this creates a tension that I have described before. The fundamental tension of conscious existence is the foreknowledge that it is, at some indeterminate point in the future, due to end. Before I turned my life around, I found this tension to be extremely painful. The earth was doomed, the natural world was doomed, our species was doomed, and I was doomed. Now that I live each day intentionally, I find the foreknowledge of the inevitable end of my conscious existence, and by extension the conscious existence of all beings, as an almost comforting eventuality. So what does it all mean? I don't know, but I used to think this not knowing meant that nothing mattered. So f*** it. Live for the moment, pursue as much pleasure as possible, and enjoy life to the fullest. This is pretty much the ideal mental state and lifestyle in support of the capitalist system. A consumer dedicated to nothing but his own satisfaction. Amusing, considering the political beliefs I told myself that I had at the time. So what does it all mean? I don't know, but for 2 weeks spent in the desert, high out of my mind, I thought I did. Burning Man will be the subject of future discussions on this channel, but suffice it to say here that we humans will go to the ends of the earth, literally, to look for meaning. But then the man burns, you come down hard, you return to the default world, and you realize that there is no temporary solution to the problem of the eternal, despite what adherents to the new religious movement of Burning Man will tell you. So what does it all mean? I don't know. I used to think that life's lack of meaning stemmed from the meaninglessness imposed upon us subjects of the globe-destroying economic system we are ruled by, and that, in choosing to struggle against it, in resistance to it, one found meaning. I certainly did find meaning in some of the more overtly political acts I've taken in my life, and I actually believe this to be true. Those revolutionaries who are, as Che said, willing to win or die, are those that have a chance of making any sort of meaningful political change in the world. I simply no longer desire what I used to, including my former goal of dying in an ultimately successful revolution. But more power to those willing to take it all the way. So what does it all mean? I don't know. For the billions of people who claim to be followers of mainstream religious faiths, meaning is derived from essentially coloring within the lines. If we take certain actions while alive, we are told, and avoid others, we will be granted our reward in the hereafter, according to what amounts to a sort of point-scoring system. My issue with this mode of being is that it emphasizes the reward to come instead of the importance of the positive act itself. It also robs us of our own moral compass and inner voice, both of which are incorruptible, and gives full agency to an externally codified list of what is right and wrong, something I feel is totally contrary to the real arbiter, the internal arbiter of right and wrong, our conscience. And unless you have fully left this world and are able to return to report back your findings, I won't believe you if you try to tell me exactly what lies beyond. So what does it all mean? I don't know, but I can understand what drives some to the path of monastic seclusion. To exist as fully as possible in this world but not of it, by renouncing the pursuit of anything outside of spiritual seeking, by removing oneself from the destruction of desire, all of it speaks very strongly to me. My contention with this pursuit is that it solely focuses on the betterment of the self, a worthwhile pursuit, no doubt, and a meaningful one to boot, where I believe it is even more meaningful, albeit much more painful, to attempt the betterment of those we interact with. So what does it all mean? I don't know. Unfortunately, our lack of concrete answers regarding the big questions can create quite a bit of discomfort and poor daily behaviors. Why act with purpose? Why act like it matters when it seems to not matter at all? To answer this, let's turn to Paul Pavel. This legendary New York psychologist survived 5 years in concentration camps, including Auschwitz, and spent his working life doing the absolute most. He was recognized nationally as an expert on English testing skills, employed locally as a city official training social workers, ran a private practice where he took paltry sums in exchange for treatment, and made it a point to minister to the most precarious of our fair city. AIDS patients and stray animals were the beneficiaries of much of his time. His patients included one of my creative heroes, Art Spiegelman, whose own parents went through Auschwitz and who was greatly aided by Pavel's insight. During one of their sessions, Pavel said, out of nowhere, that he is basically a nihilist. This man was a paragon of ethical living who embodied via his daily habits a code of empathy and conscious action. Spiegelman asked how someone who spent his life doing what Pavel did could be a nihilist, and Pavel's response is something I will take with me to my grave. Well, he said, I decided that behaving ethically was the most nihilistic thing I could do. So, what does it all mean? I don't know, but I do know that it is possible, at least in the inherently flawed way that our species does everything, to lead a life that doesn't avoid the tough questions, but acknowledges them without the painful yearning that often comes with seeking to know what is unknowable, and in doing so, allows one to avoid a lot of the existential angst that arrives with simply being. I haven't fully mastered this way of life. No one has. But it starts with honestly assessing the role one plays in the complex web of relations that spiral outward from the self, and approaching each of these relations as best as one can, at all times, from a place of love and abundance. If one can do this with frequency over a long duration of time, you may perhaps no longer need to search for meaning, because you have already found it. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week for another episode of NYC Foodways. Peace.